You are being scammed. Every single month you trade your hard-earned money for neon-colored powders that promise you the body of a Greek god. But look back at the golden era. Look at Arnold in 1974. There was no creatine HCl, no fancy pre-workouts, no SARMs. Yet they built physiques that shame modern bodybuilders. Today, we are throwing the supplements in the trash and returning to the only 3 things that actually make you grow. Welcome to the machine. The global dietary supplement industry is currently valued at over $150 billion. That is a number so large it is almost impossible to comprehend. But let's put it into perspective. That is more than the GDP of entire countries. And this industry has one primary product. It isn't selling you protein or endurance or strength. It is selling you hope. It is selling you the idea that the only thing standing between you and the physique of a champion is a $40 plastic tub of powder with a holographic label. Think of the supplement industry exactly like a casino in Las Vegas. When you walk into a casino, everything is designed to distract you from reality. The lights, the sounds, the free drinks, it is all engineered to make you feel like a winner while you slowly empty your pockets. The supplement aisle at your local nutrition store is no different. The neon colors, the aggressive names like Napalm or Explosion, the photoshopped models on the labels, it is all theater. And just like in a casino, the house always wins. You place your bet, you buy the fat burner, the testosterone booster, the mass gainer, and you spin the wheel. But month after month, the result is always the same. Your wallet gets lighter, but you do not get bigger. The genius of this billion-dollar lie is that it convinces you that the problem is you. If the pre-workout didn't give you a crazy pump, maybe you just need the pro version. If the protein powder didn't add an inch to your arms, maybe you need the one with hydrolyzed isolate matrix technology. They keep inventing new problems just to sell you new solutions. They invented the anabolic window to sell you post-workout shakes. They invented cortisol blockers to sell you pills for stress. They have successfully convinced an entire generation of lifters that biology can be hacked with a credit card. But let's step out of the casino for a second and look at the reality of the golden era. Look at the foundation that Arnold and his peers stood upon. When Arnold walked into Gold's Gym in Venice Beach in the early 70s, his gym bag wasn't rattling with 20 different pill bottles. He didn't have a scientifically formulated intra-workout carbohydrate solution. He had water, maybe some milk. The distinct lack of chemistry from a can forced them to rely on the only things that actually worked. Arnold understood a fundamental truth that modern marketing has tried to bury. Supplements are, by definition, supplementary. They are the final 5% of the equation. They are the cherry on top of the sundae. But look at how most guys operate today. They treat the supplements like the main course. You have guys spending 90% of their fitness budget on that final 5% of results. They will skip buying high-quality steak or eggs because they need to save money for a tub of branched-chain amino acids that practically does nothing. It is a complete inversion of logic. You are trying to build a skyscraper starting from the antenna, wondering why the building keeps falling down. This obsession with the magic pill is actually a psychological defense mechanism. It is easier to believe that the secret to growth is hidden in a proprietary blend than to accept that your training intensity is just too low. It is comforting to think that you can buy your way out of a plateau. But the hard truth, the truth that Arnold lived by, is that you cannot outsource the work to a powder. There is no scoop large enough to compensate for a lack of effort. The industry hates simplicity because simplicity cannot be patented. You cannot patent hard work. You cannot patent a caloric surplus from Whole Foods. So they have to complicate it. They have to use big words and pseudoscience to justify the price tag. They tell you that your body is a fragile machine, that will crumble if you don't feed it every 2 hours with their specific product. It is fear-based marketing at its finest. So, what happens when you stop? What happens when you refuse to play the game? If you took every single tub, bottle, and packet in your kitchen right now and threw them in the trash, would you shrink? Would your muscles dissolve? Absolutely not. In fact, for the first time, you would be forced to confront the reality of your nutrition and training without the safety net of a placebo. You would stop looking for the shortcut and start looking at the map. However, simply stopping the supplements isn't enough. You cannot just remove the crutch and expect to walk if your legs are weak. If you clear out the noise, you create a vacuum. And if you don't fill that vacuum with the right things, you will fail. If you don't replace the powders with the first essential that Arnold prioritized above everything else, you will shrink. And no, it's not just eating more protein. The first essential thing you need to grow is not found in a plastic tub. It is not found in a laboratory. It is found in the aisles of your local grocery store. We call this the Munich Nutrition Strategy. To understand why this matters, we have to go back in time. Before the movie deals, before the mansions in California, and before the trophies, Arnold was a 19-year-old kid living in Munich. He was not wealthy. In fact, by modern standards, he was broke. He did not have the budget for fancy formulations, even if they had existed back then. He had enough money to cover the basics of survival and a gym membership. So how did a broke teenager build the foundation for the greatest physique in history without a single scoop of whey isolate? He relied on the most powerful anabolic substance known to man, real, whole, solid food. In Munich, Arnold's diet was primitive. It was visceral. It consisted of eggs, whole milk, meat, cheese, and potatoes. When he needed protein, he didn't shake a bottle. He cracked a shell. He didn't drink a slurry of processed powder. He chewed a steak. And this distinction, the act of chewing versus drinking, is where the modern lifter fails completely. Walk into any gym today and you will see skinny guys chugging mass gainer shakes that contain 1,200 calories. They think they are hacking the system. They think that a calorie is just a calorie. But the body does not work like a calculator. It works like a biological refinery. When you drink a mass gainer, you are essentially flooding your system with maltodextrin, cheap, processed sugar, and low-grade protein. It passes through your stomach almost instantly, spiking your insulin to dangerous levels and leaving you hungry again an hour later. You aren't building muscle. You are building insulin resistance. You are renting size that is mostly water and fat. Arnold's Munich strategy was the opposite. He understood intuitively what science has since confirmed: the thermal effect of food. When you eat a solid piece of chicken or beef, your body has to go to war to break it down. It has to expend energy to digest the protein structure. This process signals the body that real nutrients are coming in. The absorption is slower. The amino acid release is sustained over hours, not minutes. You stay anabolic for longer. There is a concept we need to embrace here: eat like an adult. Somewhere along the way, the fitness industry convinced grown men that it is acceptable to survive on liquids like a baby. We have guys drinking 3, 4, maybe 5 shakes a day because they are too busy to eat. That is a lie. You are not too busy. You are lazy. The act of sitting down and eating a meal is part of the growth process. Chewing your food releases enzymes in your saliva that begin digestion before the food even hits your stomach. When you bypass that by drinking your meals, you are short-circuiting your own biology. And look at the results. Look at the muscle density of the golden era bodybuilders compared to the puffy look of many modern influencers. Arnold's muscle looked like it was carved out of granite because it was built on dense nutrition. You cannot build a solid house out of straw. and you cannot build dense muscle out of sugar water. If you want a physique that looks hard, grainy, and permanent, you need to return to the Munich strategy. You need to trade the convenience of the shaker cup for the discipline of the fork. Now, this brings us to the anxiety that paralyzes so many of you. You are terrified of messing up your macros. You have downloaded apps that track every gram of rice to the second decimal point. You stress over whether you hit 2.1 grams of protein per pound or 2.2 grams. Arnold didn't have a smartphone. He didn't have a macro tracking app. He didn't carry a food scale into restaurants. The Munich strategy relies on simplicity, not mathematics. Arnold knew that if he was training hard, his body would demand food. He listened to that demand. He didn't count calories, he made the calories count. There is a massive difference. Instead of obsessing over the numbers, he obsessed over the quality. Is this a whole egg? Good. Is this a real steak? Good. Is this a processed bar wrapped in plastic with 40 ingredients I can't pronounce? Bad. This approach removes the neuroticism from nutrition. It frees you from the prison of tracking. When you eat real, nutrient-dense food, it is actually very difficult to overeat. Your body has natural satiety signals that processed supplements destroy. You stop when you are full. You eat when you are hungry. You trust the machine. So here is the challenge. For the next 30 days, stop spending money on anything that comes in a tub with a nutrition facts label that reads like a chemistry textbook. Take that money and spend it at the butcher. Spend it on eggs. Spend it on potatoes. If you can't chew it, don't eat it. You will feel different. Your energy will stabilize. And for the first time, you will stop just gaining weight and start building actual tissue. But let's be honest. You can have the perfect diet. You can eat all the steak and eggs in the world. You can have the fuel sitting in the tank, ready to go. But fuel is useless without a spark. Most people think pre-workout gives them energy. They think caffeine is the answer. Arnold knew that true energy comes from a psychological trick that modern science is only now understanding. Walk into any locker room in America right now and you will see the same ritual. You will see guys standing in front of the mirror, shaking plastic cups like they are mixing a chemical weapon. You will see them dry scooping powders that smell like battery acid and taste like blue raspberry candy. They are checking their smartwatches, waiting for the beta-alanine to kick in, waiting for that tingling sensation in their face, waiting for their heart rate to spike. They are convinced that they cannot lift a heavy weight until they are chemically altered. They believe that without this artificial buzz, the workout doesn't count. This is the mindset gap, and it is the single biggest reason why the modern lifter is mentally weaker than the lifters of the golden era. Let's be brutally honest for a second. If you need a scoop of stimulant just to find the motivation to go to the gym, you have already lost. You haven't just lost the workout, you have lost the war. You have admitted that your own ambition is not strong enough to move your body. You have admitted that your drive is dependent on a substance. Arnold Schwarzenegger trained twice a day, 6 days a week, for hours at a time. He moved millions of pounds of iron over his career, and he did it without 400 milligrams of caffeine coursing through his veins. He didn't need a pre-workout to make him want to train. His pre-workout was something far more potent and, unfortunately, something you cannot buy in a store. It was visualization. To Arnold, the energy didn't come from a bottle. It came from the vision. Before he even touched the bar, he had already completed the set in his mind. He didn't just see himself lifting the weight, he felt it. He visualized his biceps growing to the size of mountains. He visualized the blood rushing into the muscle, filling every fiber until the skin felt like it was going to burst. This mental image was so clear, so vivid, and so powerful that it triggered a physical response in his body. His adrenaline spiked not because of a chemical, but because of a purpose. When you rely on pre-workout, you are cheating your own psychology. You are creating a fake sense of intensity. You feel the jitters, you feel the aggressive energy, and you mistake that for passion. But it isn't passion, it's anxiety. It's a chemical trick. You are not training because you want to build a legacy. You are training because your central nervous system is in a state of fight-or-flight panic induced by a lab-made powder. And the moment that powder wears off, usually halfway through your workout, your motivation crashes along with it. Arnold's energy was sustainable because it was internal. He called it the why. Why are you here? Why are you doing this set? If the answer is because I took pre-workout, you are a tourist in the gym. If the answer is because I am building a masterpiece, then you don't need the caffeine. The vision pulls you through the pain. The vision forces out the last reps that the caffeine can't reach. Think about the physiology of it. When you take these high-stimulant cocktails, you are borrowing energy from tomorrow to use today. You are taxing your adrenal glands, stressing your cortisol levels, and ruining your sleep quality. And as we just discussed, sleep is where the growth happens. So, in your desperate attempt to have a good workout, you are actually destroying your ability to recover from it. It is a self-defeating loop. You take the pre-workout to train hard. The pre-workout ruins your sleep. You wake up tired, so you take more pre-workout. The golden era bodybuilders didn't have this problem. They trained on whole food and raw aggression. When they felt tired, they didn't mask it with stimulants. They listened to it. Or they used their mind to override it. Arnold spoke about the mind-muscle connection as if it were a religious experience. He believed that the mind was the limit. If the mind could envision the weight going up, the body would follow. This is the ghost in the machine. The pre-workout generation has disconnected the ghost. They are just machines running on cheap fuel, moving weights from point A to point B without any real connection to the muscle. You see, the supplement industry sells you pre-workout because it is an easy fix. It is easier to sell you a caffeine addiction than it is to teach you how to cultivate the mental fortitude of a champion. They know that if you rely on their product to feel ready, you will be a customer for life. They have successfully monetized your lack of discipline. So here is the hard truth. You need to detox. You need to stop looking for energy in a scoop. Real intensity is quiet. Real intensity is focused. Real intensity is Arnold staring at the floor between sets, not jumping around because his skin is itching. Real intensity is the ability to summon maximum effort simply because you demand it of yourself. This is the standard. You must learn to flip the switch without the chemical assistance. You must learn to walk into the gym, tired from a long day at work, and find the fire inside your own gut, not in a shaker cup. Because the day will come when you don't have the powder. The day will come when the stimulants stop working. And on that day, if you haven't built the mental muscle, you will crumble. But I have to warn you, this transition will not be pleasant. Once you drop the stimulants, you will feel weak for a week. You will feel lethargic. You will feel like you have lost your edge. But that weakness is good. That weakness is reality exposing itself. It is showing you exactly how much you were relying on a crutch. But then if you stick with it, something incredible happens. You will discover the shocking principle. This is the second essential key that separates the champions from the gym rats. The second essential thing you need to grow is not a product you can buy. It is a concept you must understand. It is the absolute enemy of the supplement industry because it proves that biology cannot be bribed. This is the shocking principle. To understand this, you have to understand the fundamental nature of the human body. Your body does not want to have 20-inch arms. It does not want a 50-inch chest. From an evolutionary standpoint, muscle is expensive. It requires a massive amount of energy to build and even more energy to maintain. Your body is designed for survival, not aesthetics. It is a master of adaptation. It craves homeostasis, a state of balance and efficiency. When you go to the gym and perform the same workout you did last week, your body is not stressed. It is bored. It recognizes the pattern. It says, "Oh, we are doing 3 sets of 10 on the bench press again. I know exactly how many fibers to recruit for this. I know exactly how much energy to expend." And because it knows the pattern, it becomes efficient. It does the work without breaking down. And if there is no breakdown, there is no reason to rebuild bigger. There is no adaptation because there is no new demand. This is where the supplement industry steps in to sell you a lie. They tell you that you aren't growing because your testosterone is low, or because you aren't getting enough specialized amino acids. So you buy the test booster, you buy the BCAAS, you drink the pink water during your workout, and you go back to the gym and do the same 3 sets of 10, and nothing happens. You are pouring premium gas into a car that is parked in the garage. Arnold realized this very early on. He understood that the muscle has memory, and that memory must be erased every single session. He didn't view training as a routine. He viewed it as warfare. The objective was not to finish the workout. The objective was to ambush the muscle. He called this the shocking principle. The logic is simple but brutal. You must surprise the body. You must expose it to a level of stress that it did not predict. If the muscle expects you to start with a heavy weight, you start with a light weight and do 50 reps. If the muscle expects a rest period, you give it none. If the muscle expects you to stop at failure, you have a partner help you force out 5 more reps. You have to keep the body guessing. You have to force it into a state of panic where it believes that the only way to survive this trauma in the future is to build more armor. That armor is muscle tissue. This is why Arnold's workouts were legendary. They were never exactly the same. One day he would do drop sets, stripping plates off until he was lifting just the bar. The next day he would do supersets, jumping from chest to back without taking a breath. He changed the angles, he changed the tempo, he changed the order of exercises. He was constantly introducing new variables into the equation so that his body could never settle into a rhythm. Most people today train with a clipboard mentality. They want to check the boxes. They want to feel good about completing the list. But comfort is the enemy of growth. If your workout feels comfortable, if you are able to scroll through your phone between sets, if you are not slightly afraid of the next set, you are not stimulating growth. You are just burning calories. And no amount of creatine, glutamine, or whey protein can compensate for a workout that lacks the element of surprise. Think about the guy at your gym who has looked exactly the same for the last 5 years. He is probably taking every supplement on the market. He has the gear, he has the belt, he has the shaker cup. But watch him train. It is robotic, it is predictable. He does the bench press on Monday. He does the squat on Wednesday. He uses the same weight. He takes the same rest. He is trapped in a loop of efficiency. His body adapted to that stress 5 years ago, and he hasn't given it a reason to change since. Now look at the golden era footage. Look at the intensity in their faces. They weren't counting reps. They were chasing pain. Arnold famously said that the last 3 or 4 reps is what makes the muscle grow. This area of pain divides the champion from someone who is not a champion. That is the shocking principle in action. It is the willingness to push past the point of comfort into the zone where the body is forced to adapt. So stop asking, "What should I take?" and start asking, "How can I make this harder?" Instead of adding a supplement to your stack, add a drop set to your squat. Instead of buying a new pre-workout, cut your rest times in half. Instead of looking for a magic pill, look for a new way to torture the muscle fibers. The body adapts to stress, not to shopping. If you want to look like a mutant, you have to train with a level of intensity that forces a mutation. You have to understand that validation comes from the mirror, not the receipt. You aren't failing to grow because you missed your anabolic window. You aren't failing to grow because your protein powder isn't hydrolyzed. You are failing to grow because your training is too polite. You are treating the iron like a friend, when you should be treating it like an adversary. You need to shock the system. You need to wake it up. However, there is a catch. You can eat the perfect Munich diet. You can apply the shocking principle and train with the intensity of a demon. You can tear the muscle fibers down until they are screaming for mercy. But all of that work, all of that food, and all of that pain is completely wasted if you fail the final step. You are eating right. You are training brutally hard. But 90% of your growth happens when you are nowhere near the gym. And this brings us to the final, most ignored ingredient in Arnold's formula. The third essential thing you need to grow is the one you are most likely neglecting. It is the silent anabolic. It is the only time your body actually builds muscle tissue, and yet it is the first thing you sacrifice. Here is the irony of the modern male. You will go online and spend $100 on a testosterone booster made of herbal extracts with zero scientific backing. You will stress over your hormone levels. You will research peptides. But then you will stay up until 2 a.m. scrolling through social media, watching videos about fitness and sleeping 5 hours a night. You are paying for a 1% boost while actively engaging in biological sabotage that drops your testosterone by 20%. You cannot cheat sleep. Sleep is not a luxury. It is a physiological necessity for hypertrophy. When you train, you are not building muscle. You are destroying it. You are creating micro-tears in the fiber. You are creating inflammation. The gym is the demolition site. The bed is the construction site. If you do not spend enough time on the construction site, the building never goes up. It doesn't matter how much material you have delivered or how hard the demolition crew worked. Arnold understood this balance better than anyone. We look at photos of him on the beach in Venice, laughing, tanning, hanging out with friends, and we mistake it for laziness. It wasn't laziness, it was strategic recovery. Arnold knew that stress is catabolic. Cortisol, the stress hormone, eats muscle. If you are constantly wired, constantly anxious, and constantly sleep-deprived, you are bathing your muscles in cortisol. Arnold trained with the intensity of a machine, but when he left the gym, he turned the machine off. Relaxing was part of the job. So here is the most practical financial advice you will hear in this video. Take the money you are going to spend on the fat burners, the BCAAs, and the mass gainers. Take all of that money and invest it in your sleep. Buy a better mattress. Buy blackout curtains. Buy high-quality food that digests well before bed. This is the best investment in your recovery you can make. If you are sleeping 8 or 9 hours a night, you will grow on a mediocre program. If you are sleeping 4 hours a night, you will shrink on the perfect program. It is that simple. Now, does this mean that every single supplement on Earth is a lie? Not exactly. There is a reason the industry exists, even if it has lost its way. And if we look closely at what Arnold and the Golden Era legends actually swallowed, we find a very short, very specific list. This brings us to the only supplements Arnold actually trusted. When you look at the gym bags of the 1970s, you don't find neon-colored pre-workouts or proprietary blends. You find food in concentrated form. The Golden Era philosophy on supplements was literal. They were meant to supplement a diet, not replace it. First, they used desiccated liver tablets. It sounds primitive because it was. Dried beef liver. Why? Because liver is the most nutrient-dense food on the planet, packed with iron, B vitamins, and amino acids. They popped these like candy because they wanted the benefits of organ meat without having to cook liver 4 times a day. It wasn't a chemical, it was food. Second, they used brewer's yeast, again a natural source of B vitamins and minerals to support metabolism and energy production. Third, they used basic protein powders, but not the hydrolyzed isolate enzyme-treated powders of today. We are talking about basic milk and egg protein. They used it only when they couldn't physically chew any more food. It was a convenience tool, not a magic potion. Notice the pattern? Everything they took was just concentrated food. They didn't rely on synthetic stimulants to trick their brains. They relied on nutrient density to fuel their bodies. If you want to use supplements today, follow the golden era rule. Earn them. If your diet is not perfect, you don't need creatine. If you aren't sleeping 8 hours, you don't need a pre-workout. Fix the foundation first. Once, and only once, you are eating like an adult, training with shocking intensity, and sleeping like a baby. Then you can add a simple creatine monohydrate and maybe a whey protein for convenience. That is it. Everything else is marketing noise designed to empty your wallet. You have the blueprint now. It is staring you in the face. Real food. Shocking intensity. Deep sleep. The supplement industry wants you to believe it is complicated so they can sell you the solution. They want you confused so you stay dependent. But it is not complicated. It never was. It is just hard work. So stop watching videos. Stop looking for a shortcut. Put down your phone. Go cook. Go sleep. Go train.